Hello, my name is Mark, and I thank you so much for coming by today. If you draw a lot, then you probably come across these pens right here. These are your basic Sharpies. You've got your fine and your ultra fine, which I use all the time, especially in my sketchbooks because I like to just draw quickly. These don't bleed too badly, and they do go through pages if you have thin paper, but it is a heavy payout and it's a good black solid color. They do stink quite a bit when you draw with them, but I don't mind that so much. And the great thing about these is I can watercolor right over this ink and it never smears, never bleeds. And I love that. So these are great for just basic drawing in a sketchbook. The bigger version of that is the Magnum. I love that name. It's the larger version of this Sharpie brand marker, and it's great for covering larger areas. Again, it's got an intense smell, so it kind of stinks, but if you're okay with that, then working with this kind of a pen is great in conjunction with the other two, because you can just draw and fill in and have a whole picture or whatever you do with it that you can use water over, and watercolor or gouache or even other markers. So I do use these quite a bit and I really love them. But today I want to show you something different. Maybe you've seen these before. I have not seen these, or I have not tried them at least. I think I saw them last year in the store, but I just kind of bypassed them. These are S-Gel pens by Sharpie. So the Newell brand, who owns this brand of Sharpie, they have these gel pens. Now these have, as you see right here on the packaging, it says no smear, no bleed technology. So this technology is something I'm really interested to learn more about. And I want to give these a try and see if they work. I've got a 0.7 millimeter, 0.5, and there's a 1.0. I have a feeling that out there somewhere is a 0.38, which is usually standard for gel pens. But these are the three sizes I have today, and this is what we're going to work with today. And how do these compare with other gel pens? Let's find out more. Let's not spend any more time on the intro here, and let's get right into these S-Gel pens from Sharpie and see how they perform. So like I said, these are my Sharpies. These are my go-tos for any kind of casual drawing, whether I'm on vacation, whether I'm just sitting at home watching a movie and I want to draw. These ones always perform exactly to my expectation. Now the Magnum is pretty huge and has a lot of good coverage area. There's a lot of ink in this pen, but it really, really stinks. I mean, this thing stinks bad. So if you do a drawing like this, it's going to stink up your space for days because it's just so strong. The regular Sharpie pen, this fine one, again, it has a stink of its own and it's going to smell for quite a while. That alcohol stink lingers around. The ultra fine doesn't really. But the thing I love about these pens is that I can do a drawing and just kind of put it to the side for a few weeks and then come back to it and paint over it later with watercolor. This is what I've been doing for years, and I just love those pens for that reason. These are the Pilot G2 pens, which these are my go-to gel pen. And I don't buy ballpoint pens anymore. I buy these gel pens. These I use at work. I use these at home. And I always buy the 1.0, the 0.7, the 0.5, and the 0.38 for different reasons. The 1.0 is very thick. The 0.38 is very thin, and I like having that differential between them, especially if I use them for drawing. And I do use them for drawing quite a bit as well. As much as I use them for writing, I use them for drawing too. What I like about these pens is that they have a rubber grip like other pens, like the S-Gels by Sharpie, and they have a click body. Some other pens like Uniball or Jelly Roll, they don't have a click pen. It's just a standard body design, kind of like that old ballpoint pen style. And you just take the cap off and start using it. And I'm not going to do a review or a comparison review of all the different brands of gel pens because basically they're all pretty much the same. You might favor one over the other, but you could use Uniball, Inkjoy, Jelly Roll, and they're all going to perform. Some have colors, some are just black, blue, and red ink, but they're all pretty much the same to me. The Pilots just seem to outperform every other brand that I've tried. So how about these Sharpie S-Gels? Are these going to outperform the Pilots in my opinion? I don't know. Let's take a look at these. Like I said, there's a 1.0, a 0.7, and a 0.5. There is also a 0.38 on the market. So if you're interested in those, you can just check those out. Now, the body design of this has that rubber grip just like the Pilot. It's actually a really nice little rubber grip. It feels very comfortable in my hand. The chamber inside just slides out easily. And that click body, again, that's a personal preference. I prefer a click, the little click thing on the bottom there, the button, versus the non-click pens where you just pull the cap off and go. I like that they put the little ball on the top there to protect the tip. And you can see here that the spring is on the top there and it comes out, which is fine. I don't usually take these pens apart, but what I did notice when I looked at it closely is the transparent chamber at the top. That means the filament is running up through it and delivering the ink to the tip of the pen. You can't see that with the other pens or even the Pilots. I like that it's transparent. It doesn't really affect it at all, but it's just nice that you can see inside and see how the delivery system works. The body design of these is very, very lightweight, almost a little cheap feeling. I wouldn't say they're cheap pens because at $6 to $8 for a package of 4, they're sort of in that medium to expensive price range. So hopefully, if you're going to be buying these, then you know what you're getting into. As far as the payout goes, the 1.0 delivers a nice even flow of ink. I really like that one. The 0.7 was a little bit scratchy. It was more like the 0.5 of the Pilots, and the 0.5 of the Sharpie was like the 0.38 of the Pilots. It was very scratchy and not a lot of ink coming out of that pen. So that was a little bit disappointing. I'd like to see what the 0.38 can do with the Sharpies. Now what I'm doing here is just putting a little watercolor over the original Sharpie pens, and just to illustrate to you how this is how I work with these. I do the drawing and then I paint over it later. Now with the Pilot pens, I know what's going to happen. The water activates the ink, and I have a whole video on gel pen painting where I talk about this, and this can be a benefit if you enjoy this kind of work, is just activating these ink pens, the gel pens. Now I was a little disappointed because of this no bleed, no smear technology. I figured, okay, it's not going to activate the ink or the gel ink in the Sharpies, but it did. So that just tells me that the ink that they use for the Sharpie S-Gels is similar to every other gel pen out there. 99% of all the gel pens that I've used, the ink activates with water. Same thing with a lot of the fine liner pens. There's only a few brands that, like the Microns and the Copic pens, the multi-liners, that don't activate with water. And for that kind of a pen, I use that more professionally than I do Sharpies. So with a gel pen, here I'm just going to do a couple of different characters using the 1.0 to start the outlines, and then I'll get thinner as I go in with details. But I want to do these characters just to see how these would work in just a casual drawing environment. Because as much as I use these for everyday use and at work, I do like to draw with these pens as well. It's great to just throw them in a bag with a sketchbook, and when I'm out, again, casually drawing, these are great. I do know that I'm not going to be able to use watercolor over them later, but I can use them to do a gel pen painting. And I'll put a link to that video that I did on gel pen painting, so you can check that out if you like. But you can see here, this is just a regular doodle for me. This is what I do for fun. And these characters, they look just fine. The pen, the ink flow is very smooth. The 1.0 was a nice heavy flow, exactly what I was hoping for. The 0.7 was good. I thought it was going to be a little scratchier from the initial tryout. And then the 0.5, you know what? It's just fine. Once you get going with these, they act like every other gel pen I've ever used. So there's no real big difference between these and any other gel pen. In fact, I tend to say the Pilots are more my preference. So here I'm going to just put on some watercolor just to see how these react. And again, I let this drawing sit for about 3 hours to dry to let the ink set in, and it's still activated. You could wait a week and it would still activate. So just adding a little watercolor to this character, you can see it muddies up because the bleeding is just, the water's activating that ink right in there. So this central character, I'm just using straight water, and you can see that I can manipulate the gel ink to control it the way I want to, and just have some fun with it that way. So that is a definite way to use it. And here for the third character, I'm just going to add some water, see the ink activate, and then I'm going to put some watercolor on top of that to see how that looks. It'll be similar to the first character. Now, this is not unexpected. Again, this is pretty much what I figured. And if you understand that's how these gel pens work, then that's not a problem. But again, for $6 to $8 for a package of 4 with no bleed, no smear technology, I was hoping for a little bit more. I was hoping it was going to resist the water activation a little more, but I wasn't surprised. I kind of knew that. So this no smear, no bleed technology, I think, is just a marketing tool. I don't really buy it too much, but you could say that about any gel pen, basically. So overall, these are fine gel pens. I'm not going to say they're bad because they work just fine. I can draw with them and I can use them at work to write with. So I have no problem with these pens. They feel a little cheaper. The design of them is fine, but they just don't have the same weight and the same feel as the Pilots. So overall, they're fine pens. I have to actually promote the Pilots over these a little higher because I enjoy them more. Well, thank you so much for watching this. I hope this was informative about these pens if you were thinking about buying them. And I'll keep them. I probably won't buy them again, but they'll be fine in my gel pen collection. Again, thank you so much for watching. Stay well, and as always, God bless.